Hello and welcome back to the Fight and Talk 2 podcast with myself, Mr. Fight and Talk, aka Connor, joined as always by the fantastic co-host of the show, George, aka the Funny Casual, as he's been nicknamed now, and Prath, aka the Eloquent Analyst. That's his new name because we're all fitting these characters. And this week we've got a very special guest who's going to be coming on the show a little bit more frequently to talk about the bigger cards. Suga C, thank you very much for joining us. But how is everyone? All good?
All good, thank you.
Good.
Doing good, man.
Good. Shook, how we doing, bud?
I'm tired, man. I'm tired of everyone sleeping on Kamaru Usman.
Yes, sugar. Yes, sugar.
We'll get into that a little bit later. But as we said in the pre-fight breakdown, there would be loads and loads of decisions. And there was loads of decisions in between a couple of good fights. So we're going to talk about the good fights, not to take any shine away from the guys that were performing very, very well at high levels. But there was some better fights of the night. So we're going to start with Polyana Viana versus Mallory Mine. And a lot of people are going, I think this was a pick'em in the end, but Prath, you're going to break down a little bit the jiu-jitsu that Viana was going through, and it was a fantastic performance from her, man. What did you see?
Yeah, I think she started with an arm triangle, and then Mallory went kind of like folded over. Then she kind of went for the back, went for the rear naked choke, and ended up in the arm, that kind of spiderweb position, which is kind of like you're almost in that kind of side control, but you've got your legs manipulating the head and arm area for that arm bar kind of position. And she executed perfectly, man. It was quite early on in that round. I think it was like 3 minutes into that round that she got that submission as well. She's a phenom on the ground, man. I think this would be quite a few submissions that has added to her record now as well. In a division that is kind of lackluster in getting finishes, so really awesome to see Polyana kind of chase that finish. And you could tell, like, as soon as she got her to the ground, she was like, "I'm going to finish this right now." And you see a lot of guys kind of ride out getting them on the ground, holding side control, holding half guard, and just waiting for something to happen. And you can tell from Polyana, she was straight in there. She was going balls to the walls to make sure she got that submission, and she got it, man. And I think you could tell afterwards Mallory was quite frustrated, but I think you can't really help but tap in that position or lose your arm in the sense that you get your arm broken, not that you physically lose your arm. She chased it perfectly. I want to see Polyana Viana against the top echelon of the strawweight division now. I think they've kind of kept her on the fringe here for a little bit. Let's see her against a Carla Esparza. I think she would do really good against her. I think that would be quite an even match as well. I think what you often see is the stand-up guy against the wrestler, and the wrestler kind of just grinds it out. But I think when you throw a wrestler in with someone that's really good on jiu-jitsu, then there's that element of being dangerous off their back. And so I think what you saw here is that Polyana is great from the top position, and if someone scrambles, she'll still take it, whether it's the back, whether it's the arm, whether it's the guillotine, she'll go for it. So, man, impressive, very, very impressive.
Definitely. You know what I really enjoyed? I enjoyed her aggression. She was not staying still. When she had that head and arm in, she was still, those short elbows, she was just throwing elbow upon elbow upon elbow. I don't know if you saw Mallory afterwards, but she had all these tiny little welts all around her eyes, all on her forehead and everything. The ring aggression was absolutely crazy, you know. And
when she had her in the triangle, and she was kind of repositioning the triangle rather than just sitting there and waiting for that opportunity to be able to readjust it correctly, she was hitting her with elbows to like even help the transition go faster. Because when Mallory was getting hit with those elbows, when you're in a head and arm choke, or if you're in a head and arm choke like a triangle, then you're compromised visually as well, because your face is going to be planted right in their kind of like in their hips, in their pelvis area, and so you can't really tell what's going on. So when someone's hitting you with those elbows from the bottom, it's very disorientating. And I think that also led to that really, really quick submission, man. Really big props, man. Like I'm really high on her. I think she's going to be a really, really good star in the strawweight division.
Nah,
although can we? And the other thing though is, can we leave her mugging crap out of here? Because like that was like 2 years ago, so we're done with it. Like we get it. She's a bad gal, but I think with the continual success that she's having in the UFC, she should be known about as the submission girl. She should be coming up. Like they'll consider Mackenzie Dern that, and I think her against Mackenzie Dern would be a great fight. So let's promote her as the submission genius that she should really be.
I think Mackenzie's maybe pushing for that next upper echelon fight right now after the sort of 2020 she had. But you're not wrong. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a good fight. I don't see Mackenzie maybe taking that. I'd like to sort of note a little bit about Mallory Martin's heart in that fight. That was incredible. She will, without a doubt, she'll be in a lot of pain today from that, from whether it be her arm or her face, like you say. But it reminded me a little bit of the Tony Ferguson versus Charles Oliveira fight, where he's got him in that armbar, and luckily the end of the round saves Tony there, gets up, and obviously you can see it changed him. But maybe it's the timing of that fight. If it was towards the end, she might have got out. And same with Tony, wouldn't have done. It was a really nice fight to sort of start out. Definitely nice to see. You get a lot of people that say a lot of women's fights go to decisions, maybe don't like the women's division as much. This shows how far the women's division's come. You've got a fight here where even myself, I wasn't sure which way this fight would go. And it was really, really entertaining. And like you say, getting her out of there in the first round with an awesome transition throughout a lot of different submissions and getting her with that armbar. Really fun to start us off there.
Yeah, and as you say about the women's fights, my second favorite fight on the card was Macy Barber versus Alexa Grasso. She looked absolutely amazing. She kept her tight boxing stance. She was piecing her up on the way in. As we said in the pre-fight, I'm not high on this Macy Barber hype train. I think she's still very young in her career. She's still got so much to learn. And, obviously I saw a lot of hate about her dad as well. I'm not really too sure about what that is. Maybe one of you guys know, but I just thought that she didn't look very good out there. Macy Barber just looked big. She looked strong, but Grasso just pieced her up. She was catching her with some fantastic combinations on the way in. She looked very good on the ground as well. I'm just all aboard the Grasso hype train. I thought she looked absolutely fantastic last night. But George, what did you see during that fight, man?
What I saw was a really well-rounded game from Grasso, more than I was expecting to see from her. Like, we knew that she had the boxing, like the striking, element kind of pretty much settled down. From her, the coach that she had have kind of developed that game quite nicely. And I didn't realize as well until last night that she'd been training with Irina Aldana, who is obviously a great striker as well. But obviously had moments in that where kind of the grappling kind of started to take over, and she looked like she's kind of gone away and had a much better all-round kind of game. And that's quite interesting as well, because Macy Barber just couldn't get into it, could she? Whatsoever. She just was at no point did you think, oh, here we go, this is it now. So, but I said it before the fight and I'll say it again, Macy Barber's so young and there's so much development still to be had for her that this is, I think we're years away from seeing the best out of Macy Barber, to be honest, and there's always this dangerous game, isn't there, where you kind of hype someone up way too early and then they struggle to live up to the hype, and then it starts to get a bit awkward because they lose a couple of fights and suddenly they find themselves down the rankings and they're struggling a bit. And Macy Barber, although she's, I do think she is a very good mixed martial artist. I think there needs to be a carefully plotted plan about how you can move her forwards in the way that people perceive that she should be moving forwards. Because everyone's got this idea that she's going to be a title holder and she's going to be the greatest women's mixed martial artist in the world, and she's going to be the poster girl of the UFC, but she ain't no way near that yet. She needs to kind of think about how you move forwards. But Grasso, though, she's 15th. She should be a top 10 now. She could be dangerous. She could be really dangerous in that division. She could cause a few problems. I'm really impressed with that all-round game, So, yeah, no, I thought it was a great fight, and Grasso definitely deserving of the win. Macy Barber was no way near it. She was well off the pace, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It just looked like Macy's game plan was to, especially in the third round when she really tried to turn up the heat and throw some real bombs, and then she'd just kind of clinch up and just stay on the hip, stay with the hands clasped behind her and just kind of hold on for dear life at one point. But at least she didn't take the mic at the end of the fight and act like a spoiled little child like she did last time, which obviously was why I didn't want her to win anyway, and because Grasso is I think she's cute as hell, man. She's, reminds me of that kind of Riobas kind of vibe of cute. She comes across really nice and she'd kill you. Do you know what I mean? I think she came across really well. Shug, do you know about why does everyone hate Macy's dad and who is obviously in her corner?
I couldn't tell you.
No?
I couldn't tell you.
He's a
I really don't know. If I'm honest, I stay away from a lot of the personal stuff when it comes to MMA. I support this sport for what it is, and that's a sport, and not a spectacle. So for me, I don't know. I don't care. As long as he hasn't hurt anyone, and to be fair, even if he had, that's not Macy. So it's Macy Barber. I think this is another one of those situations, like you just brought up. Then it's one of those where I think the UFC is just backing the wrong star here. It's Macy Barber is great, but Alexa Grasso, is clearly that much better. I saw this as a striker versus striker matchup. I thought Grasso's boxing would be a little bit cleaner. What I didn't expect was such great grappling transitions from her as well. That was really nice to see. But like I say, let's harp back on about the UFC promoting the wrong star, and it was the same with that Amanda Riobas versus Marina Rodriguez fight. A lot of people I know that are very, very high on Marina Rodriguez, and it showed. And the UFC were all in on Amanda Riobas, and they want to be careful with this sort of matching two such young stars up against each other because you may end up losing one. Great fight though. I enjoyed it. I really don't know about any of the sort of controversy. I do know that a lot of people weren't so fond of Macy Barber after sort of jumping on the mic, like you say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of stealing Roxy's thunder there a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting to see. Girls came to bang. One thing that I did think was interesting, a comparison I found was Macy Barber. I don't know if it was ring rust, but she was doing this thing that Michelle Waterson does a lot, where she just jabs from open space, and it's like you're throwing a strike, but your opponent can see all of it. It's not effective at all, and sometimes it leaves you out of position as well. And then she was also running in a little bit of her chin in the air. Someone that's a little bit more in the upper echelon of striking, say your Wiley Zhangs, your Valentina Shevchenko's, your Joannas, they're going to make you pay for their mistakes. So that's one thing I did notice was that Macy maybe needs to work on a little bit. Could have just been ring rust. So excited to get back in there after that layoff with the ACL. But yeah, great fight.
I thought it was strange that she was doing that. She was almost telegraphing a lot of her shots as well. I felt like when she was closing the distance, she was telegraphing everything. I think I knew about 3 days ago that she was going to throw that spinning heel kick, and then all of a sudden she threw it, and it was like, oh look, Grasso's moved out of the way. Of course she has, because she saw it coming during a weigh-ins. You know what I mean? I thought it was ridiculous, and like you say, it might be down to ring rust, or it just might be the fact that she is a very young individual and she's not as experienced as Grasso, obviously. But exactly, I couldn't agree more about them backing these. As we said in the pre-fight, they back the Sage Northcutts. They back the different people in different divisions to do really well, and then all of a sudden they don't, and they kind of go, oh well, maybe they're not on the hype train anymore. But then it's the pressure that builds diamonds. You know what I mean? Like Israel Adesanya is a perfect example, and he will always be a perfect example for me of them thrusting someone up all the way through the division so quickly. But he just came win after win after win after win. But I think he's obviously a little bit older as well. He's got his kickboxing background that he relies on so much as well, and he's been a top competitor for such a long time in his career. But a person that I was also very impressed with. Sorry, George.
I always think that the UFC are always looking for like an American superstar. They're always looking for that like homegrown product who like can just be like, they can just go, this is the person. And I think recently Macy Barber's been in that kind of category as someone who they think they can just like, because she's American, they're looking for that kind of, always wanting that kind of person. You look back through like, I suppose any of them, obviously people stack up to it, like John Jones, for example, or a TJ Dillashaw who hasn't stacked up to it at times. They're always looking for that American kind of like, almost like American hero. And Macy Barber, it feels like, is that person they're trying to thrust forwards, but it's just too soon. It's just too early. You can't, it's just not going to happen, at least for another few years. So I think they need to kind of like focus, like you say, on people like Grasso and move forwards and leave Macy Barber to it for the time being.
Yeah. I think it comes down to matchups. I think just one last little point before we move on is that it's no coincidence that Conor McGregor between fighting Dustin Poirier and fighting Chad Mendes / was supposed to be Jose Aldo, there's a fight with Dennis Seaver there, and that's because that's smart matchmaking from them to propel him into a bigger spotlight. You've got him a fight against Dustin, which is the test, right? Can he get through this? Can he then rise to the occasion? And then once he gets through that, let's then throw him an easier fight, maybe per se an easier fight, but like something that isn't as competitive for Conor to go through, then go to the title fight. And I think when you look at these guys here, I think this was the big test for Macy Barber, right? Can she really kind of put herself in the top of the division? This will take her some steps back. But then I think this is also a really big learning experience as well. When you go in against someone that's as technical as Alexa Grasso, who has great head movement and great strikes. I mean, in that third round, she did kind of come out looking like she was going to come and take that. She came out in that third round like she wanted to take the rest of that fight there. I think maybe if she had another round or so, then it could have been even. If that was a 5-round fight and she had the gas tank for it, then we could be looking at a completely different fight. So I do give her credit where credit's due, stepping up to the challenge of fighting someone who is at that level, maybe taking those steps back. But then these are things that she will build on and keep going to propel her forward. And she's only 22 years old. She'll be fine.
Yeah, no, definitely. And she reminded me a little bit of Ronda Rousey yesterday, of someone going in there that when Rousey fought Nunes, and Nunes was clearly the better fighter, and she was just kind of in there, loads of head movement, moving her arms around, feinting, but there was nothing that she was going to kind of threaten Grasso with. And she, Grasso kept their composure throughout the whole fight as well. And another person who kept their composure the whole fight was, what's his name again? Bilal Muhammad. Oh. That's it. Sorry, yeah. Because why would you have a nickname of "Remember My Name"? I think that's just ridiculous. And how many people are going to make jokes about not remembering his name? Because I don't know. It's just
that was shameful, Connor.
Thank you very much. I was trying to crack a joke, but he looked very, very good out there as well. He looked very, very, very good against a tough opponent as well in Lima. But I felt like, Lima is obviously in the UFC. His brother is in Bellator. His brother does very, very well in Bellator as well. Obviously, knocking out people like Michael Venom Page, fighting Mousasi, that kind of stuff. He's a very, very, he's one of the best people in Bellator for sure. But his brother just looked like a very, very cheap version of him, I'm afraid, last night. But not to take anything away from Bilal Muhammad, he looked absolutely fantastic. Very, very thick, stocky frame as well. He controlled the distance very well. I didn't feel like Lima had anything to offer him at all. Shug, what did you see, man?
Do you know what? I saw Lima looked a lot better. Now, I think the issue with Lima is you look at him and you compare him to his brother, which is one of the best fighters in the world, never mind at Bellator. And yes, he is very similar to his brother. Came out with some great calf kicks. Probably even Bully B, Bilal Muhammad, remember the name. He tweeted out today, "My leg was like a balloon," which I thought was hilarious. The old Conor McGregor meme. But it was them leg kicks, them calf kicks. They could have made that fight a very different tale if Bilal Muhammad wasn't the sort of man he is to be able to take them. Checked a lot of them as well. Don't get me wrong. Kept coming through and knew when to mix up the takedown. When he was taking too many strikes to them legs, like you say, he was in on that takedown and would mix up in several different ways, going for that single leg, going for the double, and going for trips as well. It was fun to watch. What I really liked about Bilal Muhammad was I expected just the very traditional, you're a striker, I'm a wrestler, so I'm going to take you down. He didn't. He threw some really great strikes, looked so improved from his last fight as well. Remember the name, Bilal Muhammad. Really, really good fight. Without a doubt.
Yeah, definitely. And Lima he just kind of shied away the whole time. I don't think he pressed forward a lot at all. Obviously, he was being very, very defensive and kind of shelling up for the entire fight. But like you say, you can't compare him to his brother because obviously he's a little bit younger as well. So maybe training more with his brother and coming out there and having a bit more confidence as well. But Bilal definitely looked fantastic. Prath, how did you see it?
There's something that's got to be said for that Colby Covington-esque pressure that Bilal Muhammad put on Diego Lima as well. And I think while we are quick to judge people based off of a performance, I think Diego is a really, really good striker for the most part. And I think he wasn't expecting Bilal Muhammad to come out as pressure field as he did, because I've never seen Belal come out like that and just kind of hunt someone down. It felt like he hunted him down from the entire fight. And Diego threw some really good leg kicks. That is definitely something that should be credited to him. But Belal, man, wow, that was something else, man. And that was only, you already have seen that against Covington Woodley. You've seen that Covington versus Lawler kind of pressure, where he just did not let him breathe at all and had him on his back foot the entire time on the outside the two black lines of the octagon against the fence. Man, it was a masterful performance, man, and it was really, really cool to see Belal Muhammad kind of really rise to the occasion, I guess, and really show that. And I think I read somewhere in the pre-fight that he's almost offended that they talk about, rising welterweight contenders is Chimaev or this guy, and Belal Muhammad's never usually in that name. His name is never really thrown into that category, and I think this is a real good time to let people remember that Belal Muhammad is there. I think we've used the remember joke about 1,000 times here, but we're going to run it again. People won't forget him, man. I'll use it in a different way. People won't forget him because of that pressure. So I'm really looking forward, and I hope he keeps that game plan. I think that's a flipping solid game plan. There's only going to be very few people in the welterweight division that are going to be able to counter that. Having watched Covington fight, I think he's got to really be wary of those leg kicks now and adjust that in his game going forward. But man, wicked performance. Really, really happy for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Did he call anyone out?
Did he call
anyone out?
He did. Yeah, Li Jinglang, the Chinese,
yes,
the leech.
The leech, yeah.
In my head, I was thinking Neil Magny would be a good matchup because of sort of rankings position, but obviously he's looking for that one ahead, the guy that just
Belal seriously underrated in that division. He's seriously underrated. And also, he's also a guy that you can see the improvement every fight. Like every single time he fights, he keeps on getting better and better. So yeah, stick him in there with a Magny, with a Li Jinglang neck.
While we're on that point, you're bang on. Everyone that has a ranking by their name in the UFC is world class, and people need to understand this. It's like there's so many people that slate UFC fighters after a couple of losses, maybe Tony Ferguson, maybe others, and it really upsets me to see, because these fighters are world class. They are the best in the world. That's why they're fighting for the UFC. And if you have a ranking by your names in this day and age, there's a reason for it. So it's even people slating Joe Rogan for calling Kelvin Gastelum world class. He is. He went in a war with Israel Adesanya, one of the best in the world, and has been fighting at the top level. So yeah, some respect needs to be put on these fighters' names, because they're nothing to be trifled with. You don't want to get in a war with these guys.
I think White said that recently as well, didn't he? He kind of had that kind of like, if you you're in the UFC, which is the top promotion in the world. If you break into the top 15, you're in the top 15 people in your division in the whole world. If you get into the top 5, you're then in the top, if you becoming a champion in the UFC is this unbelievably difficult task to achieve. And if you achieve that level, then it's like one of the most incredible feats in combat sport. So, you're completely right. More respect needs to be given to people, who are ranked 1 to 15, who are ranked at the lower level of 15. People, they are completely and utterly world-class, every single one of them.
The top 5 is the 1% of the world, and the top 15, I would say, is the top 5% in the world. And I think if you get into any of those brackets, you should be extremely, extremely proud of yourself.
Without doubt.
Yeah, and another person I was, that I thought put on a world-class performance yesterday, who never should have been on the early prelims, was Ricky Simón. He came out there. He was supposed to be like the first fight out. He's supposed to be the warm-up act, and then he came out. He sat on the main card, obviously making a huge leap past absolutely everyone else through the prelims and everything. But he went out there and he put on an absolute class performance. His wrestling, his striking, his pressure, just constant, non-stop. I thought Ricky Simón looked absolutely fantastic out there yesterday, man. Absolutely fantastic. And this guy should not be on the early prelims. Everyone was so shocked that he was anyway. I don't know if that was the UFC trying to, get everyone's juices flowing early on, but the kid is a machine. He looked really, really good out there as well.
It may also have been because they were so worried about this fight as well, because it's dropped out, say, 3 times. They were like, yeah, well, if we put it on the early prelims, people won't get too excited, and if it drops out, and it was just more of like a bonus fight on the card.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
And
he's also
sorry, go on.
He's also He's also another guy who, when every single time he steps in, he looks like he's getting better and better. It's just so clear and obvious that every single time he fights, he just is improving and improving. So yeah, he was really good last night.
Very much so. Very much so.
I think with that fight, it was going to go one of a couple of ways. Brian Kelleher with one of the best guillotines in the game. I was looking for that early on, but as soon as Simone got him down, got his head in the right position, and then opened him up with that elbow, it was a different Brian Kelleher. That wasn't the Boom that we've seen at his best. It was clearly affecting him. We spoke about Bare Knuckle FC before. I'm not sure if Boom would be sort of cut out for the BKFC, because as soon as he's distracted by that blood, he wasn't the same fighter out there. But there's something to be said for Ricky Simone's pressure. Same as Prath said himself with Bilal Muhammad, going out there constantly in your face. It's his game plan. And he did so well at it. Really, 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 really good to see. Excited to see what's next for Ricky Simone. Because the last time they sort of tried to push him, he got that Faber fight, let's say, lost that one. And it was derailed a little bit. But has wins over Merab Davavishvili. Has a win over Brian Kelleher now. So, yeah, he needs to be bumped up into that next echelon. Let's see what he's about.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, it was good to see he had the gas tank as well. But someone who did not have the gas tank, Prath, that you were very, very high on before the fight, Rodolfo looked fantastic for the first 3.5 minutes. And then all of a sudden, it's like when you're playing a video game or something and you just see that health bar and the stamina bar just deteriorate to the point that you get starched at every single jab. What happened to him out there, man? He just put all of his eggs in one basket and they all cracked and burned.
Can we just take a moment of silence?
Yeah, I'm going to pull one out.
Wow. I think in part, Rodolfo Vieira not being prepared fully. Man, I don't even know what to say. I'm actually so frazzled here with just how, do you know what? What I'll say here is Rodolfo Vieira will still always go down as one of the greatest jiu-jitsu competitors in the world. In MMA, I feel like he needs to make massive adjustments to then go forward here. He was undefeated before this fight. I feel like he really, really tried to chase that submission in the first really early, like two or so minutes of the fight. And the other thing that's a glaring weakness of his clearly is his striking and his striking defense generally. He just sat in front of him. As soon as he couldn't take him down, you'd see Rodolfo go for a really low single leg or like almost like an ankle pick to try and get him down. And when that didn't work, he had no answer for him. He would get back up and Anthony Hernandez would hit him with jabs. He would hit him with uppercuts. He would hit him with hooks. He would hit him with kicks. He would hit him with everything and the kitchen sink. And I just don't think Rodolfo was really prepared for I don't think he thought that Anthony was going to get out that first 2 minutes. And B, I think his frame is just enormous for that weight class. And I think that was something that they kept saying over and over again. Does that suit someone at 185 pounds when you're fighting at potentially like 205 pounds after you regain your strength? I don't think so. And I think this is something that he's going to have to really, really look at in his camp, whether that's a diet change, whether that's a weight class change. I don't know. He generally looks like a tank. I don't know. He even when on the scales and stuff like that, he looks pretty, I wouldn't say he looks drawn out as some of the other guys that are really cutting down to that kind of weight. But you could see he's got very, very little body fat on him. So I'm not sure if it's a thing where he's cutting too much weight and then blowing himself back up. He might have to go for a weight class change here and try to build on it. But I still think he's one of the best ever. And I think his accomplishments in jiu-jitsu will certainly back it up. And I think the other thing as well is I'm going to stop talking about Rodolfo Vieira right now because all the credit should go to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And I say that because you should remember that name as well as Bilal Muhammad. Wow. The diversity of strikes. Sorry, he's got me frazzled as well. The diversity of strikes that Anthony Hernandez threw out there, man, I think is just incredible. His bravery to go for the submissions. He tried to lock up Darce chokes, tried to lock up Anaconda chokes, eventually settled on the guillotine there at the end. And I think he sat into that guillotine perfectly. And I think as soon as he sat down for the guillotine, he knew that he had Rodolfo Vieira. And man, it's so sad to see a legend go down like that, especially for me with the background that I have. watching someone like Rodolfo Vera growing up, it is sad to see someone like that go down like that. But I think it's either going to really make or break him. He's either now going to come back like a bat out of hell and no one else is going to beat him because he'll make those adjustments, or he's going to fade away and he's going to be one of those guys that was like, do you know what? I was a jiu-jitsu champion for a really long time. I dipped my toe in MMA and now I'm done. So he's either going to go one or two ways. So it'd be interesting to see, man. But I'm really excited for Anthony Hernandez. Really happy that he, I think this is his third or fourth fight in the UFC. He's had pretty up and down mixed results. And so I want to see him get on a streak here. Let's line him up with a couple of guys. I don't think he took any damage. His face looked the exact same afterwards. I don't think Rodolfo Vieira threw a punch in that entire fight. I think he literally, without setting anything up, would just keep going for low single legs. So let's get him in there again. Let's get him in. Let's make him the jiu-jitsu killer. Let's throw him in against some other jiu-jitsu black belts and see how he does. But I'm excited for Anthony Hernandez, and it's sad to see Rodolfo Vieira again. But let's hope that when he does come back, it's out for a meaningful period of time. I think he needs to take a little bit of time off here, really readjust, and come back stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. I just thought he was, as DC said as well when he was commentating, he's just carrying far too much muscle. And some of these guys, they carry this muscle when they get into the first round. We see it with Paulo Costa as well. They carry so much muscle that they get into the first round and they gas so much because the lactic acid build-up between resting and stuff like that is, you just can't maintain it. Do you know what I mean? You never see, like, as I've said before, I do like triathlon and stuff, and you never see these absolute kind of stacked, jacked guys or girls or whatever doing it because the muscle won't see you through. It's the fat and the having, the extra kind of storage to see you through to the later rounds. But yeah, Fluffy Hernandez looked absolutely fantastic. He was a little bit on the chubbier side as well. That's what DC said. He came out, he looked a little bit chubby, but he had a perfect game plan. And I think hitting him with the sub was definitely something that he wanted to do. And he was like, right, I'm going to sub this guy because he is the submission guy. He was piecing him up on the feet. He could have just, picked him up every time. He could have said, nope, we're going to stand up. Nope, we're going to stand up. I don't want to get down on the ground in your world. But he thought, you know what? Why not? He's tired. He's gassed. He hit him with a massive elbow as well, which completely put him out. I think Adolfo had no answers on the feet because of his gas tank. That was very, very evident as well,
Yeah, man. And I just think it's funny that you hear. I actually didn't really think he looked that chubby or fat comparatively to his other fights, but I guess that's the small details that someone like DC, who's right there, can kind of tell those small differences. The other thing as well that we should definitely touch on is how much of the betting odds against him getting a submission was crazy. I think Suge said it was like 50. Was it 50 to 1 or something like that?
I got 50 to 1 earlier on in the week. On the broadcast, They were saying 30 to 1, which is still insane odds. But it's one of those where you look at and go, he has so many submissions on his record. Vieira only has a round in him. It's possible. But no, I think that did shock the world. I think if you're going to sit there and say, oh yeah, I knew Anthony Hernandez was going to win that fight by submission, you know a lot more than most people, because I don't think many people saw that come in. It was great. It was great to see. And I think Conor hit on it right. It was about pride. He could have finished that man on the feet many times. He wanted to submit Rodolfo Vieira because of his accolades, because of how good Vieira is. And I think that Prath said it right. It's not about Vieira had a bad night. Let's talk about Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. No matter how bad the nickname, we know Conor hates the bad nicknames in MMA. But yeah, let's talk about Anthony Hernandez and what's next for him. Let's see if there's a ranked fight at middleweight we can get him. It'd be lovely.
No, definitely. And, we're going to move on to the next fight, but Hernandez looked absolutely fantastic. He looked really, really good out there. And I wasn't saying that he was chubby as in, he looked out of shape. As I've been very, very vocal about in the past, when I see heavyweights cutting to 265, I haven't got time for that at all. But he looked chubby in comparison to Rodolfo. That was my main comparison point, and obviously DC mentioned that as well. But a guy that also looked very chubby but managed to go the distance was Kelvin Gastelum. And I thought Ian Heinisch was going to take it. He looked good going on the scales, and he looked good going into the fight in his previous fights. But KG just turned it up and did not give Heinisch an absolute second to do anything. Apart from, I think, in the third round, I think it was when when Heinisch was attacking a rear naked choke, but he obviously couldn't get around the body triangle. But he had his hooks in. It looked very dangerous, but KG kept his composure and he knew what he was doing. But George, tell me, how did you see the fight going? Obviously, you were KG before the fight as well, right?
Yeah, it kind of went like kind of how I thought it might go. It wasn't as much of a bloodbath. It wasn't a bloodbath as I thought it might have been. But yeah, Gastelum, as I thought, would just kind of close out Heinisch's opportunities and kind of leave him kind of like almost a bit like fuzzy in the head, like unsure as to like how to kind of maneuver his way through to try and find some kind of path to victory. You know, he kind of had that last round where, like you said, he kind of got him onto the floor and had that kind of like rear naked choke kind of situation. But Gastelum defended it really well and kind of got himself back onto his feet. But I just think that I said this before the fight, like Heinisch clearly struggles against guys who are just like almost like one level above him. They kind of push a little bit, like it's just almost like a step too far for him at the moment. And Gastelum, like we were saying earlier about like guys who are in the top 15, Gastelum is a world-class mixed martial artist. And I think that there's been this like kind of like this like theory that because he's lost 3 in a row and like he seems to have been kind of like on the way out, he's been in the UFC a long time, blah blah blah, that he's kind of like he's heading the wrong direction. And I think last night was a perfect kind of fight to say, look, I'm still here and I'm still super relevant in this division. And he didn't give I can't think of a moment really where Heinisch ever looked like he was going to win that. I really like even the situation in the third round, I didn't think he was going to win it. I thought it was a really sensible and clever fight from Gastelum. I just thought it was really, it was really simple and it was done really well. And I think it was perfect for him. I just think that he can now move on. He can get that win back in the column and he can just move on and look for those bigger fights. I know he said, I'll be the backup to Costa Whitaker. If someone falls off of that, I'll step in. Like, fine. Like, maybe that is too high, but I thought he was really impressive, Gastelum. I thought he was really, really good. And I'm pleased for him, to be honest, because he kind of said he was fighting for his UFC career. He felt like he was on the way out, but he's nowhere near on the way out. He's still a serious competitor in that division, for sure, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a lot of on social media that it was kind of him versus Cannonier. I think would be a good fight for him.
Perfect. That is a perfect fight for Kevin Gastelum, and Cannonier would definitely take that, I reckon. So yeah, perfect. Book it.
Yeah, I think it would be good. A very good matchup for both of them guys as well. But as we know, Whitaker is he's a fantastic fighter, and I think if KG goes up against Whitaker, it will be domination. I'm a big Rob Whitaker fan, and he's obviously going to be fighting for the title very, very soon as well. If not, is he vacating and then him fighting it, for an interim? I don't know what's going to go on with that, but we'll have to wait.
How about you set up Kelvin Gastelum with the winner of Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman?
Yeah, another good shout. Yeah, that's another good shout.
KG has a loss to Chris Weidman, which was one of those losses during his career which I didn't expect. No one really saw that come in, and then Chris got the win there. Uriah Hall, a guy that he beat on the Ultimate Fighter finale, which again, no one expected that to happen. With KG, I think his biggest issue is mentality. He has so many skills. I think his wrestling got him through BJJ transitions where most people would have tapped or lost their arm. And his wrestling and control of top position got him through a lot of that. His chin is one of the best in the division. He takes a punch to give one back. It's how he's beat so many people. Michael Bisping, it's exactly how he beat him. And he took that strike just to give one back, and it's trusting in his chin, which isn't always the greatest thing to do, but he has really good striking. He hits with power. He's a great wrestler. He deserves a little bit more respect put on his name. Maybe it'd be nice to see him back up in those rankings, but I'd like to see him get that win back over Chris Weidman, or maybe even a win over Uriah Hall. Be a nice fight to run.
Just quickly, I'll literally 2 seconds. Gastelum's biggest problem, I think, is being self-doubt.
Yeah,
it's very evident across a lot of his career that he almost looks like he's constantly doubting himself constantly. And if he was to improve on that and have a bit more of a I'll say it, an Usman mentality, he might find himself in
Sports psychology. Having a sports psychologist has done wonders to some of the best fighters in the world. And I wouldn't doubt that Kelvin Gastelum would really benefit from that if he isn't already. Maybe that's something that he's done on the side, come back and show, no, I'm about this. Ian Heinisch, he was also fighting for a lot there and showing what he was about. It was just a case that KG was that little bit better, I think. So yeah, let's not knock Ian Heinisch either. Great fighter.
Yeah.
Just a fresh mashup I had in case any of those other ones didn't work was Kelvin Gastelum against Derek Brunson, which is I'm really surprised it actually hasn't happened before. So I think that's a fresh little mashup for Kelvin Gastelum, a winnable fight for
Is
either
Kevin
person.
Holland getting that fight?
Yeah, Kevin. Yeah,
Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson.
Is it booked though? I've seen it on Twitter back and forth for a while, but whether it's booked is the question.
March the 20th, I think looked for, isn't it?
Oh,
then I can't wait.
Happy days.
Big Mouth.
And then for Ian,
Kevin Holland.
and for Ian Heinisch, there's a couple of people within that 10 to 15 that kind of work out quite well for him. The two that really stand out for me is Omari Akmedov, which is a great kind of comeback fight for him, and the other one as well, which is in part a comeback fight, but also could potentially be a launching pad for the other person, could be Edmund Shabazian.
Yeah, Edmund needs to come back and get a nice fight in that division, because obviously I had that loss to Derek Brunson sort of derailed the hype train as it was. But Edmund's very young again. When we talk about Macy Barber and her age, is Edmund 23, 24? Maybe 24 now. Very young, so much to go. When you talk about these fighters that it's like Chase Hooper that I've had on my pod recently. Cheeky little plug. It's when they are so young, they've got so much room to grow. And it's great to see. So yeah, another one there. Great to see Edmund back.
Yeah. Edmund Shabazian is currently the male version of Macy Barber. They're going to be careful.
Is that your new man crush?
No, not yet. No.
Edmund's a beautiful human being, man. Put some respect on that.
They just want to be careful if they're too heavy on him, basically.
Yeah, of course. But a person that needs a lot of respect in his name and has a lot of respect in his name is Usman. He went out there and put on an absolute masterpiece yesterday. We were speaking a little bit before we pressed record about his absolute dominance during that whole fight. Obviously, everyone was going, "Oh, he got rocked. You know, the classic Joe Rogan throw everything in the air and he's rocked him kind of thing." But I don't think at any point in that fight did he ever look like he was in danger. He came out there and everyone thought it was going to be, myself included, everyone thought it was going to be 25 minutes of wrestling, grinding him down. Maybe Burns is going to get the sub. Maybe, Marty's going to go through to a 25-minute decision. But no, he kept it on the feet. He pieced him apart on the feet. He looked absolutely fantastic. His jab was immense. My two kind of buzzwords from the evening were jab and low kick. These are things that you learn on your first 3 weeks of doing either Muay Thai or boxing. And it's crazy that even these kind of elite guys are just relying so heavily on the very, very basic principles of fighting, which they should do. And, if they can implement a good jab, but we don't see a lot of good jabs in MMA sometimes because you're obviously moving yourself into their distance. You obviously put your front leg forward or back leg forward, etc. You might get a takedown, etc. Whatever. But his jab was absolutely phenomenal last night. Absolutely phenomenal. I think he put him down like 2 or 3 times because of the jab. It was just insane. It was an absolute masterpiece. I was watching it. I was super hyped for that fight, and the way he came out and the respect and the love afterwards was really what this sport is all about. Obviously, we've had some controversy in the past with the Khabib versus Conor, jumping the cage, doing some mad stuff. We were talking about Macy Barber as well, taking away the mic from Roxanne Modafferi, but the love and respect that they had for each other, being former teammates, former partners as well, obviously sparring each other a lot in the past. It was just absolutely beautiful to see in this. We don't see enough in this sport as well. I was very, very happy from start to finish. As soon as they said the word go, it was a great fight. But Prath, what did you see, man?
Kamaru, man. Kamaru. I had a pre-fight. I had Gilbert by 4th round submission. What a lofty expectation I had for myself. But I thought I'd throw in often what ends up being George's casual pick. I thought I would throw it in this time because of how much George loves Kamaru.
Come on, stop. This is so boring. It's like that there's some problem with Kamaru Usman. It's just ridiculous. I'm not going to go at you personally, but this is like the MMA community as a whole has a problem. He's just levels above anybody. It's not. I don't even know why we have to debate anymore. Last night as well proved it that he's not actually boring because he finished 2 of his last 3 guys now. You know, this is not a boring fighter. This is a guy. Sorry to interrupt you, Prath, but I'll let you carry on. I'll crack on in a minute. You carry on, and I'll crack on later.
I genuinely thought that you were about to give me hell for saying that your picks are rubbish, but okay, we'll take that as well. Yeah, Kamaru Usman. Wow. So I the one thing I picked up on, the few things I picked up on, Gilbert looked really good early. I think he looked very confident early as well. And I think that was kind of what stopped Kamaru Usman from being able to employ a very wrestle-heavy game, was that he was kind of initially on the back foot there. And then the adjustments in the second round, the jab in the start of the second round onwards, man, was money. And especially the way he finished him as well. It looked like it was like the most lazy jab that he could have hit him with, and it looked like it kind of crushed him in the same way that when Rory kind of fell backwards when Robbie Lawler hit him with that last like jab and he couldn't take it, he just kind of fell backwards. It was kind of that's the kind of feel that I had for it. Wow, yeah. I mean, Kamaru did what Kamaru does best, and that is adjustments, employing to his game plan as well. Like, he looks like he really stuck to his game plan, didn't get rattled by the shot too much. It clearly knocked him off balance. I think in part, obviously, he lost his balance. He got hit with a good shot behind the ear as well, and that's just going to naturally take your equilibrium out. But he recovered very, very quickly. And I would say that Gilbert initially, when he got dropped the first time, recovered very, very quickly, then got hit with another shot, then got hit with another shot, and then it just kind of the snowball down the hill kind of just started happening there. Man, I have nothing but great things to say about Kamaru Usman, and I personally always thought he was an incredible fighter. I think anyone who can take Tyron Woodley to the limit like he did when he took the title from him, I think that's just the nature of being able to do that by itself shows that you're an incredibly impressive athlete. And I think he is going to go down as one of the best ever. And we said that about Tyron Woodley, but even when Tyron Woodley was at the top, there was still like, I think people thought that Wonder Boy would give him hell. And I think people thought that there were matchups that could really, really take away his shine and take away his ability to really employ a Tyron Woodley based game. And I think now looking forward, Kamaru Usman, there's very, very little holes in his game. So when I look at him as a champion and look at him as a potential GOAT, I think he is very much in hand. He's like in grasping reach of being able to achieve that. I think and again, I think it comes down to those matchups, right? How they match these guys up. I think if Kamaru can take a couple more really big names, and I don't know if that necessarily means that's Masvidal. I don't know if that necessarily means it's Covington. I think he can potentially get a bigger fight than that, and that could really solidify his legacy. And I don't know what Kamaru Usman's in it for. Is he in for legacy? Is he in for money? Is he in for pay-per-views? Is he in for the legacy of his name to move on to his children? Like, who really knows apart from him what his real motivation is? But if it is a legacy thing, I think he's very, very close to reaching that. And I think just with a couple of more really, really close, good matchups, he can really, really reach for that and be the person that he expects himself to be. And I think we're slowly starting to catch on now. And I think he really, really turned off a lot of fans by saying, the 30% comment after one of his fights many years ago. And I think from there, he's always kind of taken flack from people and his style of fighting as well, the decision heavy grappling style of fighting. Generally, not saying he does this all the time, George. I'm saying generally when he does employ that game, that's where he gets detractors. But when he comes out like he did against Covington, when he comes out like he does against Burns, man, how can people not love that? I think it really shows his heart, his ability to take a punch, his ability to adjust from that and come forward. Amazing stuff from Kamaru Usman, and just undoubtedly one of the best welterweights on the planet, regardless of brand, regardless of country. And just the real storm of these Nigerian fighters coming through, man. I am so excited to see just the rise of a nation come here and really take over the UFC here, man. I can't wait to see. I'm really hoping that eventually they're going to build a performance institute like they did in China, like they were looking to do in Mexico. I'm really hoping they build one in Nigeria because it looks like there is just some absolute animals coming out of there.
Definitely. I was a little bit nervous actually when Burns was on the floor saying like, come into my guard, and then Usman was kind of doing what he did against his previous opponents of just like hitting the feet, kicking the legs, and kind of almost punching the toes kind of thing. I was a little bit nervous when he was doing that. I was thinking, oh no, is he going to try and grind this out? But it was, after that he just completely turned it up, as you say, man. Sugar, what did you see, man? Where do you see him going next? The whole of social media was blowing up about who's he going to fight. He wants to call out Jorge Masvidal, which I think it would just be pointless. He's already got a win over him. I don't think he needs to beat him. You've got Wonder Boy Chiesa, who he hasn't fought in the division. Why not beat the whole top 14 below you? Why not?
I think, yeah, you hit that right. Usman had a nearly perfect night for me. The only thing he did wrong was mention George Masvidal's name. Like, I just don't understand it. Well, I do. It's for money. He clearly thought, I got a decent paycheck on the last one. They'll give me another one on this one. It's an easy fight that I can win. Fair enough. So I understand it in that sense. What would have been perfect is if he called out the only other challenger in that division that he hasn't beat, and that's Wonderboy. Now, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, in my opinion, I'll happily go against what Prath said. I think he is the guy that maybe could show them holes in Kamaru Usman's game, if there is any. I want to say if there is any, because the thing about Usman is he likes to mix it up in every which what way, whether he's going to take you to the ground and grind you out, have you up against the cage, or show his phenomenal striking and where it's come since. What Thompson does is he shuts down your game very well as well. He has some of the best takedown defense in the division. He has teep kicks that keep someone at range better than anyone, and a really, really good jab. When we want to talk about jabs that Usman put on last night, Wonderboy had a great jab as well. He uses his range and footwork so effectively. And no, I do not see it being the most interesting fight. I see that fight going 5 rounds, and I could see it going either way. Whoever employs their game plan the best on the night, that'd be a really good fight. Moving on from that, I'd say the 185-pound division. It's stylistically, Usman poses quite the threat for Israel Adesanya. That's one hell of a fight. And if I'm totally honest, I don't want to hear anyone talk about the greatest of all time, the GOAT, unless you've gone through more than one division. There are too many people now that have cleared out their division and gone to the next that you're going to call someone in one division the GOAT. It just doesn't work that way. Everyone's world class, like we spoke about before. All of these guys are at the top of their game, but there is only one GOAT, and you have to just do something that's that little bit different, next level. For me, it'd be 3 divisions. That's what we need to see. So if someone can conquer 3 divisions, then fair enough. Who knows? Maybe Izzy's that guy with his kickboxing experience and how he likes to jump through the weights. Maybe Izzy might be that guy to do the 3 divisions. Who knows? But yeah, for Usman, for me, I'd like to see the Wonderboy fight. Whether it's going to get given, who knows? I really don't want to see the Masvidal fight. I really don't. What about you, George? How did you feel on this one?
Well, man, I don't get the Masvidal thing. The Masvidal thing is for money. He has been running his mouth, Masvidal, which he always flipping does. But I like the Wonder Boy shout because I'm quite keen to see him clear out all the welterweights and then potentially move on from there. But I think he's beaten 7 of the top 9 now, is it? So I think the only other 2 left to do are Wonder Boy and Chiesa. So potentially clear them out and then move up potentially. But I just don't like Chiesa. I don't think Chiesa's got the all-round game to cause any trouble to Usman. And I just think that Kamaru Usman and what now seems to be this very good relationship that he has with Trevor Whitman, I just think the 2 of them together are going to create a game plan that will nullify Wonderboy enough to see them through. And I keep on saying it about these really great fighters. There's levels to this game, and Kamaru Usman is just levels above everybody else at the moment, and that's fine because sometimes people come along and they're just great, and you have to just respect greatness, and that's what he is. He's just great. So he's got the striking. That jab is unbelievable. He's got all the wrestling you could possibly want, the grappling you want. The ground control time is pretty much all his when he fights. He's got all of that. And then on top of that, as an extra layer, he's got the fight IQ and the game plan and the mental strength. I'm really high on Kamaru Usman, but I don't see the hole in the game. And if there is the hole in the game, you can be damn sure that he'll patch it up and hide it from his opponent, because he won't let the opponent find it. And that happened last night. I thought Gilbert Burns was his toughest challenge to date, personally. I thought he had all of the necessary skill set to cause Usman problems. And when he slightly rocked him in the first 30 seconds, I was like, oh my God, maybe this might start to get a bit awkward for Usman at times. But obviously then he kind of took his time on the ground, when Burns was on the ground, he kind of took his time, and let his head get less fuzzy, and it was after the first round, he had the microphone in his corner and Trevor Whitman said, "You're the best in the world because of your jab, so use it." And at that point then he came out and started to use the jab, and it was game over instantly. Burns had no answer for it. And I lose words for people like him, to be honest, because I just admire people who are great, and that is that great level of mixed martial arts. He's hit the pinnacle, and he's not a GOAT yet. He's not a GOAT, but he's a welterweight GOAT. Him or GSP now is the conversation now. Is it him or GSP for welterweight GOAT? He's a pound for pound.
Easy,
he's
fella, GSP.
It's GSP, but he's getting up there. There's no question it's GSP.
But if he keeps on going, then people will start to say that maybe he is. But
of course,
he's a top 5 pound for pound guy. He's obviously the number 1 guy at welterweight, and there's no one is going to stop him. No one is going to come along and stop him anytime soon. It's as simple as that. And maybe that makes him boring because he's probably going to win. But I just sit there and admire Kamaru Usman, to be honest. Last night was just it was almost perfection, to be honest. It was like I said, I'm literally losing. It was just perfection. I can't say anything more than that. He was in Crush Corner. And he is firmly staying there. He might be a permanent resident of Crush Corner, to be honest. He might be a permanent resident. He is unbelievable. I love him. I don't find him boring one bit. Not one single bit.
No, definitely. And his performance yesterday definitely solidifies him in the GOAT conversation. You know what? The GOAT conversation is something that will be ever evolving. When a person cleared out their division, they were the GOAT. When someone cleared out 2 divisions, they became the GOAT. When they did 3 divisions, it's going to come to a point where there's going to be someone with a very, very good frame that they can fight at 55, 70, 85, 205 and just beat everyone in every division. But until we get to that point of these, cyborgs that are going to be getting in the cage, these people are just phenomenal athletes. As you said earlier, Shug, these guys are phenomenal athletes. And, his physical attributes as well, he's a very, very in-shape guy. Do you know what I mean? He's an absolute machine. But Trevor Whitmore being in the corner as well is obviously a fantastic coach and a fantastic striking coach as well, obviously working alongside Justin Gaethje as well, who's got some crazy strikes on him as well. But it was just fantastic. It was just a fantastic end to the evening. And your Man Crush Corner, George, will continue throughout the coming weeks and months, I'm sure. But that wraps everything up, unless anyone's got anything else to add on the night or any honourable mentions.
I just want to mention that they're both wrong. And sorry, not both of them are wrong. I think Wonderboy shouldn't fight Kamaru Usman. I think Wonderboy needs to fight Leon Edwards, and then they need to go for the title. I hate Leon versus Covington. Covington against Masvidal, Leon against Wonderboy. Leon, Wonderboy winner, fights for the title. Let's get it together, lads. Come on.
And Kamaru Usman beats all of them, so it's game over.
Honestly, you've got Dana White, Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby, and Prath. I'm telling you. the four best matchmakers in the game. Let's get it set up. I'm happy with both.
Pay me, Dana.
But yeah, I think Leon and Wonderboy both need one of those fights that's in the top 5, even if they're fighting each other. I didn't like to see that Leon sort of was made to fight Hamzat, and Hamzat's now pulled out twice as well for a fight that really doesn't make sense to him, other than just proving, yeah, I'm the best. Which Leon really is. He's one of those that's so underlooked. Leon's really good. I believe that Wonderboy's the same as well. Lost a close fight to Darren Till and then got knocked out by Pettis, and everyone thinks that Wonderboy is done. He's not. It happens. Like we say, these are the best in the world. But yeah, that's all I've really got to say. Apart from just adding on the Usman versus Burns fight, I think the biggest factor in that fight wasn't even just skill. I think it was heart and mentality. Burns could have finished Usman in that first round if he had that mentality that Usman had to finish Burns. And I think I noticed that from the moment that Burns went for that glove touch and Usman didn't. And that was sort of suggesting, yeah, you're my boy, but not right now. This is war. This is my octagon. This is what I do, and I'm here to beat you. And in that first round, there was moments where Burns could have finished him, in my opinion, and just lacked that killer instinct to get it done, which Usman switches off in that cage, and he's a different animal. Different animal.
I think we spent a lot of the build up as well in that fight, looking at who figuring out between the two who was the better person in the gym. And I think that moment where they were staring at each other and Kamaru didn't go for the glove touch, I think that was that moment where we realized, okay, Kamaru was the one who was smashing in the gym.
Yeah,
he's like, we'll touch our gloves afterwards, because that was confidence right there as well. I think he was a little bit upset as well, if I'm totally honest. One thing I thought was overlooked in the build-up was the fact that he took that title shot against his training partner. Take a couple more fights, take some money opportunities. He waited out almost 8 months or so just to make sure he could still get that title opportunity rather than taking a fight, which was maybe to Usman a bit like, well, you really want to test yourself with me? So yeah, I think he was a little bit offended by that as well. And after it was said and done, he saw his boy crying like he was, saw the raw emotion at his hands, and went, nah, it's done now. Which, love the respect as well in the game as well. That's one massive thing I love about MMA.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we never touched on it, but the cameras that the UFC had last night were absolutely phenomenal. We won't touch on it too long because I want to wrap this up, but say again? I was
saying to the lads last night that WWE were using similar cameras for their entrances, and it's not often that you are able to see a tangible difference in quality when you're looking through a video camera, and that was a tangible difference in quality. I love this slight blur of the background as well. Like I was showing my friend, one of my friends, the fight today, and that was like the first thing he said. He was like, "Oh my god, the camera angles look amazing," and I was like, "Forget about that. Just watch the fight, man."
Nah, there was definitely the new cameras did look sick. I just noticed that I was going to watch the fights. I brought up Twitter and I just saw about 40 tweets about them, and I was like, "Oh, there's new cameras. Nice to know."
Yeah,
everyone was talking about the new cameras last night.
Yeah, of course. It's like when it snows in the UK, everyone talks about it snowing. I'm well aware of what's going on outside the window, but people, Twitter is a good place for people to voice what they're thinking about or whatever, which is why so many people say, oh, you stole my tweet and all this kind of stupid stuff. But we're all thinking the same thing. Do you know what I mean? We're all in this, MMA community together. We're all probably thinking the same thing. So, yeah, I don't like getting...
Just one last thing before we sign off. Nice T-shirt, Connor.
Thank you very much. I'm wearing a Fight and Talk T-shirt. Naturally, I had some made because I like the logo. But yeah, if anyone wants one, just hit us up and I'll get it made. I'm all for that. I think I like the brand. Why not? But thank you very much for joining us on the Fight and Talk 2 YouTube channel, or if you're listening to us on the radio, thank you very much as well. If you don't already, hit like, hit subscribe, and comment. I always reply in the comments, and I love getting back to people as well. Also, Suga has his own channel. Suga, plug yourself, man.
Suga C YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter, the real Suga C, because there's fakes out there. When you're this amazing at MMA analysis, and obviously everyone wants to be Suga C. No, just a massive thanks for having me. Check me out on my channel, but I'll be around here again. Love to break down the fights with you lads.
Beautiful, man. George, Prath, thank you very much as always. And we'll be doing our Blades versus Lewis breakdown as well. That'll be coming very, very soon. I think the fights next week are a little bit easier on the odds makers. I think they're pretty clear with, but I think it'll be a good card to break down as well. But thank you very much, and we will see you next time.